Hey there, food lovers! Have you ever wondered how your favorite bagel gets made? From the moment the wheat is harvested in the fields to the delicious golden brown bagel that you grab on your morning run, it's an impressive journey of science, tradition, and of course, great taste. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting culinary journey. To truly appreciate the bagel, we need to go back centuries. The story of the bagel begins in Eastern Europe, specifically in Poland, during the 17th century. It's believed that the bagel was first created as a tribute to the King of Poland, Jan III Sobieski, after his victory over the Ottoman Turks in 1683. The shape of the bagel, a perfect ring, was said to symbolize the stirrup of a horse, a nod to the king's military prowess. As Jewish communities spread throughout Europe, so did the bagel. It became a staple in Jewish bakeries across the continent. But it wasn't until the early 1900s that the bagel made its way to America, brought over by Jewish immigrants who settled in New York City. In the 1920s, bagels became a street food sensation in the city's Lower East Side. But how do factories today make such consistent, delicious bagels on such a large scale? Everything starts with the wheat. The flour that forms the base of every great bagel begins in the field. Farmers harvest specific strains of wheat that are high in protein and gluten, two key components needed for that classic bagel chewiness. Once harvested, the wheat is cleaned and ground into flour at the mill. This process is more detailed than it sounds. The wheat is carefully sorted to remove any debris, then milled into fine flour that is ideal for bagels. It's important to get the protein content just right, as this affects the dough's structure and elasticity. Then, the flour is transported to the bagel factory, where the real magic is happening. In a bagel factory, dough is created in massive mixers designed to handle large batches. First, flour is poured into the mixer. Flour is the foundation, but it's not the only ingredient. To make the dough, factories add a precise mix of water, yeast, salt, and sweeteners like barley malt syrup. This combination ensures the dough rises well and gives the bagel its subtle sweetness and perfect consistency. After adding the ingredients, the mixer begins to work its magic. The dough is mixed for around 10 to 12 minutes at high speeds, kneading the ingredients into a smooth and elastic dough. This is crucial because bagels need a dense but supple dough. Too soft and they'll be airy. Too tough and they'll be too hard. Once the dough reaches the right consistency, it's time to let it rest. Resting helps the gluten relax and the dough to become easier to handle during the next steps. At this point, the dough is still quite large, and the factory needs to divide it into smaller pieces. Factories use automated dough dividers to ensure that each portion is exactly the same size, usually around 3 to 4 ounces for a standard-sized bagel. The next step is crucial: the shaping of the dough into a perfect round shape. In traditional bagel making, bagels are hand-rolled, but in a factory, this process is done using automated machines. Now, here's a step that sets bagels apart from most other bread products: the boiling process. After the dough is shaped, it's time to give it the signature dense, chewy texture that makes bagels so unique. Bagels are boiled briefly in water before baking. In most factories, the water is heated to just under boiling temperature, typically around 205 to 210 degrees Fahrenheit, 96 to 99 degrees Celsius. Sometimes, a small amount of baking soda is added to the water to help the bagels develop that golden brown, glossy crust when baked. The boiling process causes the bagels to puff up, creating the chewy exterior and slightly soft interior that we all know and love. Once they're done boiling, the bagels are carefully lifted out of the water and drained before they head to the next stage. Next up, baking. The boiled bagels are now ready to go into the oven. But not just any oven, a special type of oven known as a conveyor belt oven. This system allows for continuous production, with bagels traveling through the oven on a belt for a consistent, evenly baked result. Bagels are baked at high temperatures, usually between 450 and 475 degrees Fahrenheit, 232 to 246 degrees Celsius, for about 10 to 12 minutes. As they bake, they undergo a magical transformation. The outside becomes crispy and golden, while the inside remains soft and chewy. The conveyor belt moves at just the right pace to ensure every bagel gets the perfect amount of heat. And, unlike regular bread, bagels retain their moisture and thickness due to that critical boiling step. When they come out of the oven, these bagels are perfectly baked with that signature glossy golden brown crust. Some bagels are left plain, but many bagels are topped with delicious additions, whether it's sesame seeds, poppy seeds, everything seasoning, or other flavorings. At this point, bagels are either manually or automatically topped with seeds, onions, or other flavorings. This step is crucial because it's not just about taste, it's about creating the visual appeal that makes each bagel so recognizable. Some bagels also receive a light glaze of sugar syrup to add a subtle shine and sweetness to the crust. Once the bagels are fully baked, topped, and glazed, it's time to prepare them for packaging. Bagels are carefully arranged in packaging trays or bags. Depending on the factory, bagels may be packaged by hand or with automated machines. Some factories also offer pre-sliced bagels for customer convenience. After packaging, the bagels are sealed tightly to preserve their freshness. Some factories even use nitrogen to flush out the oxygen in the packaging, which helps extend shelf life without the need for preservatives. Once packaged, the bagels are ready for distribution. They are loaded onto pallets, shipped out, and sent to stores and bakeries, ready to be enjoyed by bagel lovers everywhere. And there you have it. From the fields where the best wheat is harvested, to the dough mixing, and finally the packaging, this is how bagels are made in a factory. While the process may seem automated, it's important to remember that every bagel is crafted with care to deliver that perfect combination of texture, flavor, and freshness. Whether you like them toasted with cream cheese or piled high with smoked salmon and onions, every bagel begins with these simple yet crucial steps. So the next time you grab a bagel, you'll have a deeper appreciation for the artistry and precision that goes into making these delicious treats. Who doesn't love stepping into a bakery where the air is thick with the warm, sweet scent of cinnamon? The smell alone is enough to make your mouth water as you think of biting into a soft, gooey cinnamon roll, its center oozing with sugary, spiced goodness. But here's the question. How do factories manage to recreate that same irresistible flavor and texture? The process of making cinnamon rolls starts long before the dough is shaped. Just like in a small bakery, the secret to delicious cinnamon rolls lies in using top-quality ingredients. While smaller operations might involve bakers manually gathering bags of flour, sugar, and butter, factories take this to a whole new level of precision and scale. In factories, flour and sugar are stored in massive silos, while butter, eggs, and milk are kept in temperature-controlled tanks to ensure they stay fresh. Automation is key here. Advanced weighing systems carefully measure the exact amounts of each ingredient for every batch. Once all the ingredients are gathered, it's time to mix the dough. Factories rely on enormous dough mixers that can handle hundreds of pounds of ingredients in one go. In contrast to the smaller bakery setting, where the dough is mixed in manageable batches, these industrial mixers can produce enough dough for thousands of rolls in a single batch. Mixing involves first combining the wet ingredients, milk, eggs, and butter, with dry ingredients like flour, sugar, salt, and yeast. Factories often add ingredients gradually to control texture. The key here is to mix at a low speed initially to develop the gluten, giving the dough its elasticity and softness. Once the dough has reached the right consistency, butter is added slowly to enrich the flavor and texture. In smaller bakeries, this step is often more hands-on, with bakers adjusting the mixing times and speeds manually. But whether it's a factory or bakery, the goal remains the same: to create a dough that's elastic, soft, and perfect for rising. After mixing, the dough is left to rest. In factories, the dough is transferred into large, climate-controlled containers where it ferments, allowing the yeast to activate. Smaller bakeries often shape the dough into individual balls and score them to relax the dough and allow it to rise evenly. This step helps maintain the dough's shape and texture during baking. In contrast, factory setups use troughs or proofing cabinets to manage large quantities of dough, ensuring each batch rises uniformly. Once the dough has rested, it's time to roll it out. Factories rely on dough sheeters, massive machines that roll the dough into long, thin sheets. In smaller bakeries, this is done manually, but the principles remain the same. The dough needs to be rolled to just the right thickness. Too thick, and it won't bake properly. Too thin, and the rolls will dry out. Here's where the magic happens: the addition of cinnamon and sugar. In factories, sugar spreading machines are used to spread the cinnamon sugar mixture evenly over the buttered dough. This automation ensures that each cinnamon roll has just the right amount of filling, providing that perfect burst of sweetness in every bite. Once the cinnamon sugar mixture is applied, it's time to roll the dough into logs. In a factory, this process is automated with rolling machines that roll the dough tightly enough to hold the filling, but not so tight that it squeezes out. After rolling, precision cutters slice the dough into individual rolls, ensuring that each one is the same size. In smaller bakeries, this step is more personal. Bakers twist the dough by hand, ensuring each bun has its unique signature while still following the same process. Proofing is the process of letting the dough rise one final time before baking. In factories, this is done in proofing chambers, which maintain the perfect temperature and humidity for the yeast to activate and the dough to rise. This can take several hours, during which the dough doubles in size. The key is controlling the environment to ensure that every roll rises evenly, creating a light and fluffy texture. Once the rolls have risen, they're ready for baking. Factories use conveyor ovens where trays of cinnamon rolls move slowly through the oven, baking evenly from top to bottom. These ovens are ideal for large-scale production because they allow for continuous baking. As one tray finishes, the next one is ready, moving through, ensuring a constant flow of fresh cinnamon rolls. Smaller bakeries rely on traditional commercial ovens. Bakers spray the rolls with egg wash and sprinkle granulated sugar on top to give them that golden, shiny finish. Once they've cooled, automated glazing machines apply the final touch, the sweet, sticky glaze. Some rolls get a light drizzle, while others are coated in thick icing, depending on the product. In smaller bakeries, this process is more hands-on. The glaze is often drizzled by hand, with bakers ensuring each roll gets just the right amount of sweetness. The result is the same: delicious cinnamon rolls ready for the final step. The last step in the factory is packaging. Automated systems place the cinnamon rolls in boxes or trays, ensuring they're sealed and fresh. Quality control systems check each roll for consistency in size, shape, and glaze before packaging. Once packed, the rolls are ready to be shipped to stores and bakeries around the world. And that's how cinnamon rolls are made in factories. From gathering ingredients to rolling the dough, adding the perfect amount of cinnamon sugar filling, and finally baking and glazing. It's a journey of precision, teamwork, and technology. Factories can produce thousands of these delightful rolls each day. But whether they come from a small bakery or a large factory, They always deliver that same irresistible sweetness. Imagine this. You're sitting at breakfast, about to butter your toast. But have you ever stopped to wonder where that little pat of butter came from? It starts with something pretty amazing. Happy cows. And some farmers are going the extra mile to make sure their cows are really happy. I'm talking VR glasses. Yes, virtual reality for cows. Picture these chubby cattle chilling out in their stalls with some kind of peaceful, relaxing landscape playing on their VR headsets. This keeps them relaxed and stress-free while they're being milked. Pretty wild, right? But why go to such lengths to pamper these cows? Well, because when the cows are stress-free, they produce better quality milk. And for anyone on the butter making journey, high quality milk is step number 1. So once these cows are relaxed and ready, they enter an automated milking system that's honestly a marvel of modern technology. Before we continue, I'd like to ask for a quick favor. If you're enjoying the video, please like and subscribe. It's free for you, but it makes a huge difference for us. Here's how it works. Each cow walks into its designated stall, where a milking unit is ready and waiting. These aren't just any milking machines. These units are super gentle, using controlled vacuum pressure to draw the milk out naturally. The cups are carefully placed on the cows, and the whole process is designed to be comfortable for the cows, which is key to getting that creamy, delicious milk we're after. The best part? The milk flows straight into containers with zero human contact. Now, once that milk is collected, it doesn't just head straight to butter making. First, it's got to go through a series of quality tests. You don't want just any milk making it into your butter, after all. Only after it passes these rigorous tests does it move on to the next stage. And this next step is crucial. The milk enters what's called a centrifuge, which is a machine that spins the milk really fast. This helps separate the cream from the rest of the milk. It's much faster than the old school way of just waiting for the cream to rise to the top naturally. After centrifugation, we end up with 2 main products, skimmed milk and cream. Now, quick side note, skimmed milk might not be everyone's favorite because let's be honest, it doesn't have that rich, full taste that whole milk has. But it's super healthy and great for anyone who's looking to cut down on fat. Once separated, the cream is smoothed out and goes through pasteurization, which is just a fancy word for heating it up to kill any bacteria. After pasteurization, the cream is allowed to mature. Think of it like letting dough rise before you bake it. After maturing, the cream starts to transform into something truly magical. Butter grains. These tiny, smooth, subtle grains are the building blocks of the butter we love. The grains have to go through one more step before they become a spreadable, creamy butter we can't get enough of. They get washed. Why? Because washing the butter grains removes any leftover buttermilk, which can give the butter a tangy flavor. And while tangy butter might sound good to some, most people prefer that pure, rich, creamy taste. So, the washing process ensures that the final butter will be as smooth and flavorful as possible. After washing, the butter grains get a little seasoning, specifically salt. This is where we get salty butter, which, let's face it, is the ultimate topping for pretty much everything. Now let's talk about churning. This is where the butter really comes to life. Churning is the process of continuously moving the butter mixture to make the fat molecules come together. It's kind of like kneading dough, but instead of bread, we're making butter. This process creates that smooth, creamy texture we all know and love. Fun fact, did you know that in ancient times butter was so valuable that people used it as currency? Imagine going to the market and paying for your groceries in pats of butter. So once the butter is all churned and creamy, it's time to shape it. This part is actually super fun to watch because the butter gets pushed through an extruder, which is basically a machine that shapes the butter into whatever form is needed. And for those who love that artisanal touch, there are hand-molded butters too. These beautiful little creations are for anyone who wants their butter to look as good as it tastes. Once shaped, the butter is ready for packaging. And here's where things get really high-tech. Machines work in perfect harmony. One places the tubes, another pours the butter in, and a third seals it up with golden paper. Then the butter takes a ride on a conveyor belt, heading toward the barcode station. This might sound like just another step, but it's crucial for making sure every package is tracked and ready for the shelves. But wait, we're not done yet. There's another butter product that's just as delicious, if not more so: ghee. Ghee is like butter's fancy cousin. It's made by melting butter and boiling it until all the water evaporates and the milk solids separate from the fat. What's left is pure golden ghee, a rich, nutty, flavorful oil that's perfect for cooking. It has a higher smoke point than regular butter, which means it won't burn as easily, making it great for frying, sautéing, and even baking. Once it's ready, the ghee is poured into containers where it cools down before heading to the packing station. Every drop of ghee is poured through a sieve to ensure it's perfectly pure, and then it's sealed up, locking in that buttery richness. And there you have it, the full journey from cow to butter and beyond. Whether it's salty butter, artisanal butter, or ghee, the process is as intricate as it is fascinating. Next time you reach for that stick of butter, you'll know just how much love, science, and technology went into making it. So next time you're enjoying that perfectly buttered toast or drizzling ghee over your favorite dish, take a moment to appreciate the magic behind it all. We've given the world some iconic shapes: the pyramid, the wheel, the cube, and of course, the pretzel. And who doesn't love the warm, rich smell of freshly baked pretzels? Those golden brown twists, lightly salted, with a perfectly crispy outside and a soft, chewy inside. But how is this delicious snack made? Did you know pretzels have been around since the 7th century? It all started in Germany, where bakers twisted dough into the familiar shape and called it pretiola, meaning little reward in Latin. By the 18th century, German immigrants brought pretzels to America, where they became a hit in places like Philadelphia. Today, we enjoy them in all sorts of ways: soft, chewy, crisp, and crunchy. So how do we make these beloved treats on a large scale? The first step to making pretzels starts with prepping the ingredients. It all begins with high-gluten wheat flour. At the factory, the flour is kept in huge silos to stay fresh and dry, and then it gets transported through pipes, powered by compressed air, straight into the mixing area. Next up is water, and it's no ordinary water. It's kept in temperature-controlled tanks to make sure it's just right for activating the yeast. The yeast, along with salt, sugar, or malt syrup, and butter or margarine, are all carefully measured by machines. These machines are like the secret ingredient to making sure every single pretzel tastes the same, batch after batch. And with recipe software running everything, it's all perfectly precise. Once the ingredients are prepped, the process of creating the dough begins in large industrial dough mixers. Factories use 2 types of mixers depending on how much dough they're making. For smaller batches, spiral mixers do the job. Spinning the bowl with a hook mixes the dough nice and even. For larger batches, horizontal mixers come in, using powerful paddles or blades to knead big amounts of dough with ease. While the dough is mixing, it's all about building gluten. That's what makes it stretchy and strong. Cool sensors keep track of the temperature and moisture, making sure everything is just right. After about 10 to 15 minutes, the dough turns smooth and elastic, ready to head off to its next adventure, fermentation. The dough is then transferred to climate-controlled fermentation chambers or proofing cabinets. For about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the recipe, the dough rests in special chambers where the conditions are just right. The temperature sits between 75 degrees Fahrenheit and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and the humidity is kept at around 75 to 85%, perfect for getting the yeast working. As the dough ferments, the yeast eats the sugars and turns them into carbon dioxide, which gets trapped in the dough, making it rise and puff up. This step isn't just about getting bigger dough. It also adds flavor and gives it that perfect texture we love. Once fermentation is complete, the dough moves on to the dividing and shaping phase. First, the dough is sent through a dough divider machine, which cuts it into perfectly even pieces. This step is key, especially in large-scale production, to make sure every pretzel is the same size and shape. Next, the divided dough heads to shaping machines, which take over the job of rolling the dough into long, thin ropes. These machines twist the dough into the classic pretzel shape, forming a U, crossing the ends and pressing them down, just like a baker would. Most of the time, this is fully automated for speed and accuracy, but in some places, skilled workers still hand twist the pretzels, especially for artisanal batches. After the dough is shaped into these iconic twists, the pretzels travel along conveyors to the lye dipping station. Here, they take a quick dip in a solution of sodium hydroxide, lye, mixed with water to create an alkaline bath. This step is fast, with the pretzels only staying in the solution for a few seconds, and the concentration is carefully controlled at around 3 to 4%. The lye bath is super important. It's what gives pretzels their deep brown, glossy crust and that unmistakable flavor. While lye is caustic, the high heat of the oven neutralizes it, making the pretzels completely safe to eat. The whole dipping process is automated for safety, with workers wearing protective gear and ventilation systems managing the fumes to keep everything running smoothly. Right after their lye bath, the pretzels get their signature salty touch. As they move along the conveyor, an automated machine sprinkles coarse salt evenly across the top. This is where things get customizable. Factories can switch up the amount of salt or even swap in other toppings like sesame seeds, cheese, garlic, or cinnamon sugar. Next up, it's time to bake. The pretzels are loaded onto another conveyor that moves them through a tunnel oven. This massive oven can bake tons of pretzels at once. Inside, the oven is split into different temperature zones, each designed to do a specific job. In the first zone, the pretzels are hit with super high heat, usually around 450 degrees Fahrenheit to 475 degrees Fahrenheit, which sets the crust fast, locking in moisture and making sure the outside gets nice and crispy. As the pretzels move deeper into the oven, the temperature gradually lowers, allowing the inside to bake through evenly without drying out. The whole baking process takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Once pretzels are done baking, they move onto cooling belts to let them cool down. This step is super important because it stabilizes the pretzels, keeping their structure intact and their crust crispy. Some factories used forced air cooling systems that blow cool air over the pretzels to speed things up. After cooling, it's time for quality control. Automated systems, along with human inspectors, check each pretzel to make sure they meet the factory's standards for shape, size, and color. Any pretzels that don't make the cut are taken off the line. The rest move on to packaging. Packaging is done with automated machines that seal the pretzels in bags or boxes. The packaging machines ensure each package is filled just right. and then apply labels with all the important details, ingredients, nutritional info, and expiration dates before they head off to stores. The journey of the German pretzel is an amazing mix of tradition and modern technology. While we may not know the exact origin story, today's pretzel making process is all about blending machines, craftsmanship, and a little science. That famous twisted shape and delicious flavor have made pretzels a favorite, not just in Germany, but all around the world. And with so many variations, pretzels keep getting better and better. If you're loving this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome content like this.